Do you ever walk into rooms and forget why? Have you ever lost your train of thought mid-sentence when you're talking to somebody? Do you get embarrassed because you're in your late 30s or mid 40s and you're, quote, having a senior moment? Well, if you have, then this video is for you because I'm going to share a top secret tip that you've never considered when it comes to getting rid of your brain fog. Hey, I'm Dr. Sam McDonald. I'm a brain health expert, and this channel is dedicated to helping you rewire your brain so that you can live a better life. So I want to talk about brain fog today because this is something that we hear so common when I see patients in the office, and I hear complaints about this every single day, from not being able to focus, from losing your train of thought mid-sentence, to misplacing your phone, keys, wallet, really whatever it may be when it comes to your specific symptoms of brain fog. But I want to share one top secret tip that you've never considered when it comes to getting rid of it, and it has to do with your feet. Isn't that crazy? The body part that's the farthest away from your brain has an impact on your brain. Here's how. So let's have a little Neuro 101 here. So your brain needs two things in order for it to be healthy. It needs fuel and it needs activation. It needs fuel in the sense that it needs oxygen and it needs glucose to run. So it needs energy and needs oxygen to be able to function. Trust me, if you ever try to hold your breath long enough, you're not going to make it very far. And if you ever go a day without eating, you're going to be really, really hungry. So you need those two things. You need fuel in terms of those two, and then you need activation, which means you've got to stimulate your brain, which means you need to be able to do things like, your Sudokus, your crossword puzzles, all your different kinds of crosswords and those kind of fun things. But you also need to have stimulation in the sense you need to have connection from your body up into your brain. Now, this is our sixth sense called proprioception. So this is our sense of where our body's at in space. And specifically, our feet have a huge connection up to our brain. So we're going to have a real big fancy word here called your homunculus. Okay, this is your somatotopic map of your body, meaning this is your brain's representation of the body, meaning that it's looking at what the heck is going on in the body up into the brain. So it's looking at what's happening in the hands, the face, the tongue, the feet, everything. And the homunculus is the representation of all the different body parts up in the brain. So if you Google this, or if you look up what the homunculus man is, you're going to see this really bizarre looking creature with this really big face, big lips, tongue, giant hands, and giant feet. That is the to-scale representation of what our body would look like if we had the representation of what's actually in our brain. So these body parts that we see that are really big take up huge, huge parts of our brain because they're so sensitive. And when it comes to the feet, these have a huge representation up there. And in terms of how our feet communicate up to our brain, it's kind of like having different stops along the railway. So let's take this analogy here. You've got all these receptors down your feet, being able to measure temperature, light touch, pressure, vibration, and even pain. All these are really important because your feet need to be connected to the ground. They need to know what is going on at all times, because otherwise you're going to fall over, and you don't want to do that. So our feet have to have all this sensory information, knowing what's going on, and it's going to relay that up to the brain. So like I said, it's like having all these different rail stops along the way. So we've got our feet at one end, and then the feet are going to send information up, and it's going to connect into our spinal cord. And from our spinal cord, it's going to zip up the spinal cord, our information superhighway, and it's going to connect into our brain stem. From there, that's going to relay information up into this part of our brain called our cerebellum. And then it's going to cross over, if we're talking about the right foot, it's going to cross over to the left side of the brain to this area of our brain called our parietal lobe. Okay, the parietal lobe is the somatotopic map of our body. It's our sensory centers of our body, where it's taking in this information of what's going on in terms of the opposite half of the body. Your cerebellum is responsible for balance and coordination, and your brain stem is responsible for all the essential life functions. Now, here's where the brain fog piece comes in, because the parietal lobe has one more stop on that rail line, and that's to your frontal lobe. Now, your frontal lobe is responsible for your executive decision making, your focus, and your attention. All those are really critical and important when it comes to having no brain fog symptoms. So you want to make sure that frontal lobe is functioning as best as it can. So, now, how do your feet play involved in this? Well, you probably guessed, if you have decreased sensory information coming in from one foot or maybe both feet, so if you're no longer getting the full sensory stimulation from your feet, that's going to start to send less information up into the brain. So the whole nervous system has to communicate together. So think about, let's just take the right foot as an example. So let's say your left foot is perfectly healthy, it's sending all the information that it should. Now let's say the right foot is only sending half of the information that it's supposed to. Only half of that sensory information is coming up into the brain. So what's going to happen is you're only going to get half the information coming up into the spinal cord, ascending up into the brainstem, cerebellum, and then opposite side parietal lobe. And then that parietal lobe is now no longer getting the same stimulation that it should as the opposite side, which means it's not going to be sending the same information forward to the front part of the brain. So that front part of the brain is now going to get out of balance with the opposite side, meaning that now some of those symptoms are going to start to come up. Maybe you start to feel more anxious. Maybe you start to have problems focusing. Maybe you have problems keeping your train of thought. Whatever it may be, the symptom for you, all because that foot is no longer sending the information like it's supposed to. That's a big deal, especially when you can't feel your foot. Imagine tripping over it, imagine spraining your ankle, whatever it may be. Those can be common symptoms, the common occurrences that cause that loss of sensory information from the foot. It can also be from things that you eat, causing you to be diabetic or even pre-diabetic. We see this a lot with people in our office. So a cool test for you to do at home to find out if you have any issues with your foot. You need a partner for this. So get your partner, and they're going to be down by your feet. So pretend my hand is a foot. So you got your big toe here and your pinky toe here. What you're going to do is you're going to close your eyes, and your partner is going to lightly touch a toe, and you're going to see if you can tell which toe that they're touching. So they're going to come in and gently touch one toe, and you're going to say, oh, that was my third toe. Or they're going to come in and touch this one. Oh, that was my pinky toe. And you got to be able to tell which toe that they're touching. That's going to give you an indication of what the heck is happening down there. So just another consideration, if your feet are always cold, that's something you really want to be mindful of, because that means you're going to have lack of blood flow down into the feet, which means you're going to have that lack of oxygen, one of those really key ingredient things that our nervous system needs in order to be healthy and to be strong. So if your feet are always cold, that means poor blood supply. That means you're going to be more predisposed to having more sensory problems down the feet. Just something to be considerate of. Okay, so hopefully you guys found this helpful. Please like, subscribe, follow us for the notifications for each and every video. Be healthy by choice, not by chance. And for that reason, I will see you on the next video.